What's up, everyone? My name is Ryan. Today is Friday, October 2nd, and in this video, I'll talk about how Trump getting COVID will impact the 2020 election. So last night, we got our first October surprise. This is a tweet from President Donald Trump. He said, "Tonight, Flotus and I tested positive for COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together." So obviously, Trump has tested positive for COVID-19, and many people are talking about the impact this could have on the 2020 election. One way this could impact the election is by underscoring America's poor response to COVID-19. America has obviously struggled to contain the coronavirus pandemic. We have over 207,000 deaths and 7.2 million confirmed cases. And Trump's approval rating on handling the pandemic has been consistently low. So when Trump gets COVID himself, that definitely puts a spotlight on the pandemic in general. And that's bad for Trump because Americans do not like how he's been handling the issue. Trump has repeatedly ignored public safety guidelines. In particular, he's held many campaign rallies without masks or social distancing. So Trump getting COVID himself definitely runs the risk that he essentially becomes a symbol of his own failure to contain the pandemic. We have an interesting tweet here from Tim Miller, a prominent Never Trump Republican. He's quoting what Trump said at the debate. "I don't wear masks like him," referring to Biden. "He could be speaking 200 feet away from people, and he'll be wearing the biggest mask you've ever seen." So Trump is making fun of Biden for wearing a mask. The fact that Trump got COVID himself could really validate Biden's decision to wear a mask and make Trump look foolish, and that's definitely not good for him. So here we have this nice graph from FiveThirtyEight of Trump's approval rating on the coronavirus. In the beginning, Trump's approval rating on COVID was roughly even, but it's been steadily declining since then. Currently, only 40% of Americans approve of how Trump has been handling the pandemic, compared to 57% who disapprove. Recently, we had a national poll from the New York Times and Siena College. One interesting question they asked voters is, tell me whether you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling each of the following issues. So Trump gets positive marks in the economy at 54% approve and 42% disapprove. On maintaining law and order, he gets 44% approval and 52% disapproval. But the coronavirus pandemic is one of his weaker issues. He only gets 41% approval and 56% disapproval. Unifying America is also a weak issue for Trump, but the Supreme Court is actually somewhat decent for him. So what we see here is that the pandemic is one of Trump's weakest policy issues. If you're Trump, you definitely want to focus on the issues where Americans side with you, like the economy. But the problem with Trump getting COVID is that it puts the spotlight back on the coronavirus pandemic where he's weaker. One theory some people have been floating is that Trump might actually benefit politically from getting COVID because of the sympathy vote. Maybe Trump gets some votes in the middle because people feel sorry for him. I'd say I'm skeptical of the sympathy vote theory for several reasons. First, we have a counterexample. In the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson tested positive for COVID in late March. While his government's approval rating was pretty high in April, that was because it had already increased in mid-March as his government started responding to the coronavirus. This is often called the rally around the flag effect, and it happened in America after 9/11 and after Osama bin Laden was killed. Boris Johnson getting COVID himself had no impact on his approval rating. The other reason why I don't think the sympathy vote will particularly help Trump is that America is very polarized politically. Most Americans have strong views on whether they like or dislike him and wouldn't change their minds just because they feel sorry for him. Another reason why Trump getting COVID is bad for him politically is that it allows Biden to run out the clock for the campaign. Currently, Biden is ahead in the polls and is the favorite to win the election. He has about an 80% chance of winning, according to the FiveThirtyEight statistical model. There are only 32 days until the election, and each of those days is a day where Trump really needs to start making up ground. Trump is well behind and really needs to start making some big moves if he wants to win. The problem with Trump getting COVID is that he won't be able to go out on the campaign trail, hold rallies, and give public speeches. Generally speaking, it's going to lock him down and prevent him from making the big moves he probably needs to win. Trump getting COVID can also affect the debates. We had the first debate last week, but we have two more in October. The debate on the 15th is actually coming up fairly soon. It's less than 2 weeks from now. That probably means that Trump won't be able to show up to that one in person because he'll still need to be quarantined. Depending on how his symptoms develop, he may not even be able to make it to the debate on the 22nd. So the debates are definitely a big part of the campaign, and they offer Trump an opportunity, if he has a good debate, to make up a few points. But if Trump is unable to make the debates, that just takes another opportunity off the table and favors the guy, Joe Biden, who's ahead. So here's something that my Inside Elections colleague Jacob Rubashkin pointed out that I found really interesting. So he has this tweet where he says, in 1960, the third presidential debate between JFK and Nixon took place in 3 separate studios. Nixon was in Los Angeles, Kennedy was in New York, and the moderator was in Chicago. It was the first time split screen technology was used during a live TV broadcast. So I didn't know this before, but apparently there actually was a virtual debate in 1960 where the 2 candidates and the moderator were in separate cities. So we could potentially see something similar to that this year, where Biden and Trump might debate virtually over Zoom. So here's a graph of the national polling average in this election. And I showed this to you just to drive home the point that Biden is currently winning this election. He's leading in the national polls by an average of 8.2 points, and he has consistently held a similar lead for the past few months. It's been a very stable race. So Trump definitely needs to make some big moves if he wants to win. But of course, we know that the election is not decided by the popular vote. It's decided by the Electoral College. So here's the Electoral College map from 2016. Trump won 306 electoral votes, while Hillary Clinton won 232 electoral votes. And we can go state by state to see how the current Biden versus Trump race is going. So Biden's actually leading in the polling averages for these upper Midwestern states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He's leading in the polling averages for those states by about 6 to 7 points. Biden's also doing well in Arizona. He's leading there by about 4 points. He's benefiting from the increasing Latino vote, as well as college-educated white voters in the suburbs are moving towards him. Beyond that, Biden is also leading narrowly in North Carolina and Florida. He's up by about 1 to 2 points in each of those states. Biden's also winning Maine's 2nd congressional district. There's a lot of white blue-collar voters who are coming back into the fold for the Democrats. And he's also leading in Nebraska's 2nd district, which is based in Omaha. It's very suburban, has a lot of college-educated voters, and Biden is looking pretty good there. Beyond that, Biden is also doing well in several pretty Republican-leaning states. So Biden is leading in Ohio by a few points. That's a state that Trump won by 8 points in 2016. It's definitely a surprise there. And we also got a poll out yesterday that showed Biden ahead by 2 points in Georgia. So this is sort of the current state of the race, where Biden is favored in states that add up to 369 electoral votes, while Trump is leading in states that add up to 169 electoral votes. So Biden's about 200 electoral votes ahead right now, and this just underscores the fact that Trump is the underdog, and he needs to do something to start making up ground. And the fact that he has COVID now is going to severely limit his ability to make those big moves. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and follow me on Twitter at Matsumoto1.